I'd be the asshole for giving my old cello to a fellow student in need and not my niece-in-law. This is a 36-year-old man. I've been learning the cello for 8 years and have been attending the same music school since starting. I started learning late in life because I grew up in a poor family that couldn't afford things like instruments and music lessons. I met Chloe because our lessons have always fallen into the same time slot and we're both in the orchestra, etc. She's about 13, very polite and eager to learn, and treats her very cheap rubbish instrument that her parents got for her from an online store like gold. I know her parents, they're lovely people, it's all they can afford. I'm not shaming them, but if you know anything about instruments, you know what I mean. It's also only half size and far too small for her, but there's not a single scratch on it and she practices every spare minute. I've recently upgraded to a performer instrument, and a trade-in on my $9,000 cello would have gotten me only $4,000 back, so I decided to keep it and sell it myself. I'm pretty well off now, but I know what it's like to be where Chloe is, so I've taken pity. I usually gift her something at Christmas, like her next grade of music book, rosin, and a gift card from the local luthier to get a new bow and have her instrument serviced. But having not had time to list my old cello for sale or even know where to, my good deed strings got plucked at thinking that my old instrument would likely mean the world to someone like Chloe, whose parents will likely never afford a decent instrument for her. But stupid me mentioned this idea to my sister-in-law, Gail, who has a daughter, a 14-year-old girl, we'll call her Alice, and she told me that Alice wants to learn the cello and insisted that I give the instrument to her daughter instead, as it's too valuable to give to a stranger's kid. Alice is her own little dude, and we get along quite well, but she has never mentioned wanting to learn an instrument to me until she watched Wednesday, and now it's cool all of a sudden. Alice hasn't stuck with anything for long. She follows fads and jumps from one thing to another and is, for lack of a better word, spoiled. Based on her track record, handing her anything other than a student cello as her first instrument would be a waste, as I'm unable to convince myself that she would even practice, let alone reach a point that would call for this level of instrument. Where Chloe is at a point where, yes, this instrument is slightly too big for her right now, but she needs it. Call me what you'd like for this part, but I'd feel happier about giving it away to someone that needs it, like Chloe, rather than someone that just wants it but is connected to me, you know? But that has me worried that I might be seen as an a-hole on this decision. Family first? The music school is putting on Christmas carols tonight, and I intend to gift the cello to Chloe at the end. Not the asshole. Comments, not the asshole. You want that cello to be used, played, and loved, and Chloe will do that. I ended up giving my daughter's old harp to a little girl who was learning. Sure, I could have sold it, but I'd rather someone use it who wouldn't get the chance to otherwise. Lastly, someone said, not the asshole. It's yours and you can do with it as you wish. If you're well off and a student cello is within your Christmas budget, give Alice an instrument appropriate for her.
Yes.
Your sister-in-law is the only asshole here. But next time, keep your mouth shut about these things and you'll avoid the problem entirely. Update.
Oh, yay! Yay!
Wow, so many comments. Thank you to everyone that took the time to help me steady my nerves on this one and point me in what I felt was the right decision from the start, but second-guessing myself. I've just gotten home from the carols. Some people mentioned asking Chloe's parents for permission to gift her the cello, and I'm glad this was mentioned because it was something that I hadn't considered, and it led to what I feel was the perfect outcome. Everyone had settled after the students had finished the show, and parents and volunteers brought cakes, etc. to share, and everyone was standing around chatting. Chloe ran off to join the line to get her bag of lollies and goodies, and it gave me a moment to approach her folks without having to mention my intention in front of Chloe before knowing how it would be received by them. I was nervous as hell, but opened up with my usual compliments on Chloe's playing. She played What Child Is This in a quartet, and it was perfect. And I made a lighthearted joke about her growing too quickly and dwarfing her cello now. Her parents laughed, but went on to mention how they've been saving to buy her a bigger one, and that they didn't want to go cheap this time like they had with her first couple of cellos, having learned a lot very quickly about quality. When they'd taken Chloe to the luthier with the intention of getting her one for Christmas, they'd been disappointed to find out that they hadn't saved enough for the quality that Chloe needed, and that they'd been devastated despite Chloe understanding and taking the revelation quite well. Figuring that a new cello was kind of something they'd worked hard on getting for Chloe, I decided to try and get them in on the idea and ask them how much they'd saved and would they be interested in buying my old one, as I had a new one now and had no need for it. I didn't notice that Chloe had approached back from the line, and she piped up with a low tone that they hadn't even saved enough for the student quality instruments, let alone mine. She has a good idea of how much instruments are worth. I stumbled on my words a little, but I went on to insist on knowing how much they'd saved, and her mother told me that they'd saved around $1,600. I told them that that sounded like a good enough offer to me, and that I'd be happy to know that it was being played and cherished by someone like Chloe that would take good care of it, and I held out my hand to shake on the deal. No one answered for what I felt like an hour to me. Chloe's father finally responded and told me that they couldn't accept it, as Chloe had pointed out an instrument of equal value to mine to them while they were in the shop, and he didn't feel it was right to take it for anything but a fair value, and that they couldn't afford to do that. I'll admit that I felt a little bit annoyed by his initial good-mannered refusal, but I understood it as I was raised by similar-minded parents with the same values. But I told her parents that it was an offer that I felt that they really couldn't pass up, as it was something that I felt Chloe had earned and needed desperately, and that even if they didn't accept my offer, I was going to give it to Chloe anyway. And I turned and placed the hard case in front of the shocked and dead silent Chloe and walked away. Chloe's father approached me while we were helping pack up the entertainment hall, and he gave me a hug and thanked me, promising to drop off the money at my shop in the morning and offering to help me out if I ever needed anything. For a stubborn bloke like that to be as red and teary as he was makes me sure that I did the right thing in making him accept the cello like I did. Chloe was visibly quite emotional, but trying not to show it, but she broke down after mouthing thank you to me as everyone was leaving, and I found it extremely hard to keep my composure and could only manage a smile and a thumbs up in return.
Oh my gosh.
I think I'm going to be riding this high for a good while. The best thing is I can tell Gail that I sold it without having to lie, and I can toss up the idea of using the money Chloe's dad pays me for the cello to buy a reasonable secondhand learner's instrument for Alice. Again, thank you for responses and advice.